Hello chess fans, this is a quick recap of round 4 from Aeroflot Open. This game features Grandmaster Andrei Esipenko, who is a FIDE World Championship candidate. Here he plays against Grandmaster Denis Rimovic and plays a quite nice positional win with black pieces. The game starts with 1 d4 and quickly we arrive at the Queen's Gambit declined structure. Andrei plays knight bd7 here, and the idea of this move is to have more options for this bishop on f8, and also the knight on d7 supports pawn c5. After bishop f4, Andrei goes bishop b4, and bishop b4 was threatening pawn takes c4, and eventually black can also play pawn b5 because the knight on c3 is pinned. So first white captured on d5. After e takes d5, he played queen a4. This move turns out to be a little ambitious because, as we will see, the queen is misplaced on a4. After a5, a3, bishop c3, pawn c3, Andrei has managed to create a structural imbalance. He has slightly disrupted white's pawn structure on the queen side. Now the a3 pawn is isolated and the c3 pawn is backward. So after black castles, white would like to play c4, but if you play c4 immediately there is knight b6. So the queen is clearly misplaced on a4, it's not controlling anything. So first white went e3, and after knight e4 he had to bring back the queen anyway to c2. And after knight df6, again he could not play the move pawn c4 because after pawn c4 there is bishop f5, making the queen uncomfortable again. If bishop d3, then there is simply pawn takes c4. And if knight h4, then the bishop goes back to d7, not c8, but so that the bishop is developed and the knight is misplaced now. So here white played bishop d3 instead of c4, and now immediately Andrei hits the center with pawn c5. Now he is threatening to play c4 and gain more space and block the diagonals for white's bishops. So white wants an open position for his bishops. He could have opted for c4 right here, getting rid of this backward pawn, but he chooses d takes c5, and this gives Andrei good play, as we will see. After knight takes c5, white plays bishop b5, protecting his bishop pair. Andrei energetically plays bishop g4, threatening to disrupt white's kingside structure as well, and also vacating the c8 square for his rook. White castled. He is not afraid of the doubled pawn on the f file because he has the bishop pair, which can always control his right square weaknesses. Andrei continues with his plan, rook c8, knight d4, and here Andrei plays knight h5. This move is aimed at removing this bishop from the board because it's controlling too many important squares, and the queen is not able to develop to a safe square because of this bishop. So after bishop d3 h6, white had to retreat in order to get a better pawn structure on the king side. After knight g3 hg3, safely Andrei has managed to develop his queen, and notice that the queen is on the dark squares, controlling all the important dark squares such as c5, b6, e5 and so on, while his light square bishop complements his queen excellently. Now his plan is simply to use his knight, two rooks to target the c3 pawn. So white tries to get counterplay in the b5. First and replace bishop d7 because the bishop was clearly misplaced on g4, and on d7 it's trying to enter on a4 and also control the b5 square, which may be occupied by knight at some point in future. So white plays a4, stopping bishop a4 ideas. Now Andre begins to double on the c file, rook c7, knight b5 eliminates the knight, bishop b5, rook b5, and plays b6, protecting the pawn on a5. So now white's only counterplay is clearly the pawn on d5. So black first improves the position of his queen and targets again the c3 pawn. Here white could have actually played bishop f1 and continuing his counterplay against the d5 pawn, but he instead chooses a very risky line which leads to an endgame while being a pawn down. So which has to be defended very accurately. So he plays e4 here. So after d takes e4, bishop e4, knight e4, queen e4, white gives up this pawn on c3. His idea is that the three pawns on the king side for both players are balanced, and the excess pawn that black has on the queen side is not really ready to become a passer. So he hopes that he can save this game by defending this endgame, but as we will see, it's not very easy. So first white tries to exchange the queens, so that once queens are off the board, the rook endgames are very well known to be drawish. But even after the queen exchanges, as we will see, white has this isolated a pawn as a target, as a weakness. So Andre will try to take advantage of this. Here he plays f4, which is a weakening move because this allows rook e4 in some lines, but he just wants to gain some space on the king side and improve his king position, which is not clearly understandable why he needed to do that. After f4, immediately black plays rook e4, rook d8, king h7, rook d7, attacking the f7 pawn. Black defense. He is in no rush to capture the a4 pawn. Rook d4, exchanging one pair of rooks. Now this position seems holdable. Here white has a narrow chance of holding. However, here he chooses the wrong plan. So he chooses to keep this rook in the fourth rank in order to protect this pawn on a4. In rook endgames, the rooks need to be active. So because of this reason, he loses the game. So Andre tries to improve the king and bring the king to his queen side. Here, after king g2, rook c6, white should have played rook d7, tying the king to protect his king side pawns and also go behind this pawn so that the rook can't go out of this file. But here he instead plays king f3, which is already bad because it allows rook c3 check in many lines, which allows the rook to reposition itself with a check. And black is in no rush. He first starts with king f6, improving his king. Now already if rook d7, then there is king e6, rook g7, and black is already improving his king position. He will play g6, f5, also, and start moving with this king quickly to the queen side. So after king f6, he plays g4. White plays g4, but this unfortunately allows g6. Now black can also create a passer, second passer, which actually decides the game. So white really doesn't have any play here. After king f3, rook c3 check, king g2, rook b3. Now here black is threatening to play rook b4. And after rook b4, the rooks will come off the board, and this pawn will be a passer. And white cannot stop this pawn because there is another passer on the h file. So after one check, white resigned here. So this game shows us how to handle imbalances, how to take advantage of backward pawns, and also when we have a superior endgame, how to improve the king's position and how to slowly suffocate the opponent. For white, he had to do active rook defense in the rook endgame, but unfortunately he missed this, and this was a nice win to Esipenko. So we look forward to seeing more of his play in the upcoming candidates.